Sisler here with AL.com, checking in with you because it is the first week of Auburn fall camp. So excited about it. Got Matt Zenitz here with us, our SEC reporter from AL.com, here to break things down, give us a little insight on the first week of camp. And before we get started, quick shout out to our inline lighting sponsors. We appreciate you and all that you do for us. And so Matt Zenitz, first and foremost, week one, we're talking about football and it's here. That's pretty cool, right?
I'll take it. Yeah. First time since March where we've had actual football to talk about. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. And obviously, safety first and foremost. And obviously schools have addressed those issues and have talked about how they're maintaining, those protocols and keeping those in place and keeping everyone as safe as possible. So let's kind of break this thing down. Obviously, fall camp started on Monday for the Auburn Tigers and really the SEC as a whole, 10 days later than originally planned for. August 7th was the original start date. So August 17th was the from Gus a few times, obviously via Zoom. We've heard from some players, gotten some good insight there. And of course, we've got some practice footage thanks to our Auburn athletics department sending us that as well. So let's just start first and foremost. Chandler Wooten, one of the guys, a senior, veteran on this Auburn football team who had decided to opt out for the season. And, one of those reasons he indicated is that he's expecting a child, I guess, in October or November. I can't remember the exact date, but, that's supposed to be happening this fall. And so that really weighed into his decision to opt out. And so certainly putting his family first and kind of putting that at the forefront. What is the significance of him opting out? And what does this mean from a football standpoint? Because first and foremost, let's throw it out there, respect from all of his teammates from what we've heard is that there's a lot of respect for his decision to opt out. But what does this mean going forward for that linebacking core?
Yeah, so the preference for Auburn is to have four linebackers that rotate in there and play. So even if guys aren't in there as starters, still have guys like Chandler last year who get in there and play a good amount. So for him going into this year, was in position to play a good amount once again, even if he wasn't a starter. And now with him out, they're in search of a new fourth linebacker to go along with KJ Britt, Owen Papo, and Jacoby McLean. So have a good group of three there, but now in need of a fourth guy, and be interesting to see just the competition there for that fourth linebacker spot, and potentially creates an opportunity now for somebody like Wesley Steiner, who we've obviously written about recently. Had a nice video on him, a talented, highly ranked freshman coming in who now has more of an opportunity than he would have if Chandler Wooten was in there playing.
Yeah, shout out to Clay Yeager for that awesome piece that he did on Wesley Steiner over the course of spring, getting to talk with him and certainly highlight sort of his story, a unique and interesting story. And, certainly a guy that had high expectations for himself and wants to come in and make an impact. And that kind of leads me to my next question. So I think depth is going to be a big key here. And you've heard the two coaches talk about it. And obviously, we're looking at a scenario here where we're not just talking about injuries, having to rotate guys in and out if there happens to be injuries. COVID is also another part of that. So obviously if a guy has to quarantine, that sort of thing. And so now more than ever, depth is going to be critical. And we've heard Gus Malzahn kind of talk about that and sort of the strategies that the coaches will take this season. So I just kind of wanted to get your take and what your thoughts are on just the overall, challenges that this presents on a team that, when you're trying to rebuild and put the pieces in place, not only just because, it's a new team, you now have to take into account that COVID could also play a role in that and alter the landscape of your team in any given week of the season.
Absolutely. Depth is going to be more important than ever, probably. I think that's very fair to say. And just even getting back to that linebacker group. So we talked about how that they have guys who get in there and play a good amount, even outside of the starters. And once again, it's going to be interesting to see how some of those guys outside of the top three at linebacker come along during the course of fall camp and who can put themselves in a position to earn the confidence necessary from the coaching staff to be able to get in there and win that 4th spot. But one thing I'll add in as far as the linebacker group is throughout the course of the summer, obviously they had workouts at Auburn. Wasn't to the normal level in terms of what they would have been doing, was dialed back a little bit. But at the same time, 2 of the guys that consistently came up in terms of being impressive throughout the course of the summer were the 2 main guys within that linebacker group with KJ Britt and Owen Papo. So that's at least a positive from a linebacker perspective, even with Chandler Wooten opting out.
Yeah, and obviously making a great point there, and kind of going down the line. Obviously, this season being sort of a very unique one, and that also makes it very unique for guys that hope to transition into the NFL next year.
Yep.
You have a great relationship with a lot of folks in the NFL, and talk to a lot of guys that are kind of out here scouting some of these top elite players. What have you been hearing about? What are some names that people might be looking at right now as they head into this season that could be highlighted as potential, higher round draft picks going into the next NFL draft class?
Yeah, so one of the things I always like to do this time of year is just get a feel from an NFL perspective, from NFL people, and just the guys that are most on the radar for them going into the season. And Auburn-wise, from an Auburn perspective, some of the names you would expect have come up. KJ Britt, somebody who the feedback I've gotten is early day 3 at this point, has a chance to be a fourth to fifth round pick based on the current grades going into the year. But the more interesting thing to me has been some of the guys who haven't even had a chance to be full-time starters for Auburn as of yet, who are already very much on the radar for NFL scouts. So one of them is Jamien Sherwood, who has played some even without being a full-time starter, and have actually gotten grades on him in the 3rd to 4th round range, which for somebody who hasn't started yet is a pretty good position to be in going into your first year as a full-time starter. And then Roger Mccreary at corner is another one who, like Jamien Sherwood, hasn't had a chance to be a full-time starter as of yet. Will get, or is expected to get, that opportunity this year. But even with him not being a starter as of yet, is already somebody who's on the radar for scouts, and somebody who they already know a decent amount from a talent standpoint. And then to go along with KJ Britt, some of the other guys that you would expect to be on the radar are very much that, in terms of Seth Williams, who, I've gotten feedback as good as like 2nd round for him grade-wise going into the year. Anthony Schwartz is very much on the radar as at this point from a grade standpoint, a mid day 3 guy, obviously a fast electric guy. So, some of those obviously you would expect to be on the radar, but the Jamien Sherwoods, Roger McCreary's of the world I found interesting just because have not played as much maybe as some of the other ones, and definitely don't have that same level of starting experience.
All right, my last question for you. We look at the season opener. Auburn opens on September 26th against Kentucky, welcoming the Wildcats to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Joey Gatewood transfers from Auburn to Kentucky. What are you hearing right now? Is there any chance that Joey Gatewood is eligible for that game and could be potentially under center for the Kentucky Wildcats and go up against his old team?
It would make the game even more fun, right? If that was the case. But at this point, Joey's going through the waiver process. So the word from the Kentucky side is that a decision should come down at some point soon. There had been some optimism based on what I had heard just throughout the course of this process. But at the same time, something that's come up is just that it's more difficult when you're transferring from one conference school to another school in conference. And if you look at some of the waivers that have been denied, whether it was Brenton Cox last year going from Georgia to Florida, Cade Mays recently going from Georgia to Tennessee, it was mentioned that it may just be a little bit tougher when you're transferring in conference to get that waiver approved, even with it seems like the majority of guys who have been seeking waivers have gotten them approved. But again, some of the cases where they've been denied have been those in-conference transfers, as just something important to keep in mind with Joey, and maybe something that could work against him to go along with the fact that, his first game is against Auburn there. So I'm not sure if that hurts him at all, but just something to keep in mind. And then even if he was eligible this year, Kentucky does have an established starter at quarterback in Terry Wilson, who was hurt last year, but definitely the favorite at this point in terms of that quarterback competition. And even if Joey was eligible, even though a very talented kid that seems like they're high on and excited about from a potential standpoint, that it may be tough to beat out Terry Wilson going into this year.
Yeah, definitely some variables there. Well, will be interesting, and certainly, kind of counting down the days. Just a handful of more weeks before we get there. So hopefully, everyone again stays healthy and safe. And we know Gus Malzahn is masking up. We got a picture of him here. Patrick's going to pop up for us. He's got his mask on at practice, and just making sure the guys are wearing their masks, following protocols. And, as of right now, the first week of camp seems like it has gone on without a hitch. And, as Gus kind of put it out there, the guys will be practicing in the middle of the week, I guess Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, scrimmaging on Saturday, as they always have before. And that'll kind of be an evaluation period. So I think we'll definitely get some good information maybe Saturday. I'm not sure if they have a scrimmage this Saturday or not, but I think we'll start to develop more information on some of the guys as they start to put on pads and go live, if you will. So appreciate it, Matt Zenitz, as always, our SEC insider, SEC reporter. For any more updates, of course, check out all of our Auburn channels at AL.com, and we'll catch up with you soon.